story and creative expression hour. In terms of the energy, we are in the heart component, the heart systems that are recalibrating and balancing during this hour. You're going to be asked to spontaneously share your feelings and thoughts regarding living and loving moment to moment during the coronavirus outbreak. How does the coronavirus make you feel?
We can look at this as a blessing because it is forcing us as humanity to stop and change our ways. There's no other choice to get through to the light and get clear about what's next, even though I have no control over what's next. But in my heart, in my spirit, clarity has come through, and I'm thankful for that.
What I've noticed, not so much lately, but certainly in the first couple of weeks, was there was a sense of anxiety, and just a couple of times. But I came to sort of think that it wasn't really my anxiety. I mean, there's probably some, but that I was picking up on what was going on in the atmosphere.
But I think the anxiety, and you mentioned it before, Ken, the collective anxiety in the world. I work with a population in therapy of clients who are extremely prone to anxiety. As a rule, they're very prone to anxiety, and it's just taken over. The idea of a collective anxiety, that's something individual anxiety is something I've worked with professionally and personally for years. But the idea that there's a collective, that there's just, as you referred to before, Rebecca, that's a new concept for me, and I don't really understand very much the implications of it. I'm not versed in energy work, but it feels like it's undeniable that how could it not? Every human being on the planet pretty much is walking around worried about this thing. That's got to generate some kind of collective energy levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'd say I feel a little sad sometimes when you see these people who don't have enough to eat. I mean, and then people who are losing their business. I mean, they may not recuperate. So, that's kind of sad. But personally, it's been given me a little more inward direction, a little more inward looking, which I'm always up for that. I live alone, but I have noticed a certain level of kind of missing social interaction. But generally, I'm sort of a day at a time, really.
I think I like social interaction, but now I realize I miss it.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of like to be alone or with one other person. I feel bad for our kids or any young people. Becca's not here now, but I just think that life is going to be very different for them, and they already were stripped of opportunities that we all had. Yeah, I think this country's great years they're over. I think they're over. I just to see this kind of a crisis for everybody to still remain unable to come together and fight on something like this. It's the common enemy. It's just so discouraging, I think, politically, and so I'm kind of pessimistic. That's how I feel.
The rate of change feels like when I have an accelerated loop going. It feels like the whole of humanity is accelerating at that pace. I have an ebb and flow of two feelings in that. I'm either feeling overwhelmed by it because for whatever reason it's coming in and flooding me. And then I go through periods where I feel like I'm on the rapids and I'm in the raft and I'm learning a lot, and all these new and different things are happening and new and different connections with people. and I'm moving really fast, and things are going really well, and then I'll hit the overwhelm with everything and feeling that. So that's my feeling experience through this. How do you feel about the losses of people, routines, normal life? For me, feeling the loss of routines is mixed. I had certain things that were just locking in place for me in terms of my routine, going to the gym and things like that. That's been hard for me. I haven't quite readjusted to replacing everything. Other than that, though, having everything kind of thrown up in the air, I don't mind that. And I think a lot of routines that we engage in our society should be interrupted and taking that step back. And I don't mind being a part of that.
I think my concerns regarding the loss and the restrictions, I think I'm able to manage it in my own personal life with my circle of family and friends in the area. But I'm concerned for my students. We know that when times are stressed, that domestic violence increases, that animal abuse increases, and there have been 3 shootings in the surrounding area, and I always check and see if any of this 10-year-old girl right now that's been shot, and I'm not sure if this is one of our kids, so one of the kids from my school. So in terms of that, and that people are looting cars, breaking windows, I haven't carried a purse in 3 weeks when I leave the house. I just don't. And unless there's some kind of relief in sight, I think that that's going to be a big concern. And then summer's coming, and you go to the beach and sit 10 feet apart from everybody at the beach. They've been advised not to walk the Jamaica Way because there were so many people up there that the mayor threatened to close down that particular area unless people started spacing themselves out. And I just don't know how you can ask people to do that who are used to being in the sun and running. But I know that for me, I'm going to follow the protocol.
Feeling the loss is hard, where it's people and experience. That part is hard for me. Concern, the economic, where it's survival based for people. So I go into very brief periods of touching in to that, because then I go into the overwhelm if I hang out there. It's so massive. So that part, feeling it, feeling the loss, feeling the grief, and people not getting to really finish with their loved ones. That is hard. So that's it. What do you miss?
Social interaction, I guess, to some degree, is activity. I mean, there's sort of a limit to the activities when you're indoors.
Yeah, family, being able to see my family.
Yeah, I miss being able to go out, just to go eat, go out and hear music, go out and eat dinner. I like those distractions play an important part of my life, and they're totally gone.
I miss going out. I miss dancing, hearing music, seeing movies in the theater with the big screen, and people. As much as I've always thought I loved going to the movies alone, and in an empty auditorium, it's like I miss going with the people now.
I miss going to the gym. I hate going to the gym, but I miss going to I need to go to the gym. It's what keeps me sane.
I miss shopping. Oh my God, shopping. No, I miss being out in public and having that flexibility and freedom to do those kinds of things.
Mhm. So what are you glad that you don't have to deal with right now with the changes?
I've been wearing the same pants for 3 weeks. I don't have to worry about what I wear.
I agree. I can relate to that.
Well, what I said before, I think, I think that this virus has the potential to bring about some very positive changes. I cannot imagine that we're going to come out of this and there's not going to be some form of universal health care for all people, everybody. Part of the problem with this thing is that people couldn't run to the doctor and get tested. People who were poor, people who didn't have a doctor, people who just don't think to go to the doctor when they have a sore throat. That would have changed this whole thing. And testing, people go to get tested. The tests are free now, but if you're positive, the treatment's not free, and so these people are not going to get tested. So universal health care, I think, is a possibility, and just the whole income inequality. I love the idea that Donald Trump is not safe until some homeless guy in South Boston is safe, at least in terms of the coronavirus. And that's going to be, to some degree, an equalizer.
Glad that I don't have to deal with the rat race, just that mentality and energy in the world. I do like that it's quieter. People are being more reflective and conscious.
Some are being more reflective.
Yes, yes.
Some are out protesting.
So I tend to try to surround myself with people who are that mentality. I don't miss, and I hope it doesn't return with the same vigor.
Mm.
What do you fear most during the pandemic?
I fear that it's going to be a long time before there's any concrete resolution, and that not necessarily that life will return to the way it was, but that the new life that we're creating, we're in the gestational period, and it's going to take some time and care and all the things that we've talked about to make things align again.
And where the fear comes in for me is really at that basic level of someone I love, someone in my family getting sick, not being able to physically be there to help, even though energetically I can be there, it's not the same. So that's basic. I don't give into it. I'm aware of it and do what I can to keep myself and those I love safe and let it go. But I think it's at that basic level that it comes in for me.
Those images of people dying. We weren't able to see images of the people who were dying. What we would hear are the people their loved ones who couldn't even find out how they were doing, much less be there with them when they were sick and then dying. I identify with the people who don't know what's going on with their loved one who's in the hospital, but I think for the survivors, my goodness, there was a woman on who she didn't know for 3 days that her father had died. And she found out 3 days later. She thought he was still in intensive care. He was dead, and he was in a truck. He was in these refrigerated truck. It's like it's what a lot of the world has to deal with, but not this country. We're so spoiled, but it feels so primitive.
Where are you discovering new things about yourself?
I'm aware of an increased level of flexibility. I would have thought if anybody told me that I was not going to be able to go to the gym for 3 months or 4 months, and that I was not going to be, that's just that I had to deviate from all my habits, which I rely on. If someone told me I was going to have to do that, I would say that it would drive me nuts. and it hasn't driven me nuts. It's been okay.
So it feels like it's reawakening my creativity in a way. That feels very good. One thing I would say I'm discovering is that I have changed, that where I used to be homebound most of the time and I am a homebody, I miss the activity a lot. And that's different for me. So I've noticed that I've changed.
Discovered that I've tapped back into creativity with a new perspective, and for that I'm thankful.
Yeah, you've had to be pretty resourceful, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
One thing I have to say is I've never gotten this much exercise. I mean, I walk every day and usually walk about 2 miles or more. And my blood pressure just loves this. I mean, it's, way down. So it's like, oh, maybe I should be doing this all the time already.
So where are you finding connection with others during this pandemic?
I have a few people that I check on, older people that I check in. And if I'm out, I call and offer to get whatever they may or may not need. The only people that I've seen or homes that I've been into are the people's homes that I was in 3 weeks before all this madness started. So I am able to see my nieces and my grandniece and my best friend. I'll go to her home and actually do writing on her deck.
I'm finding connection with others through Zoom. I've suddenly formed a lot of connections and new connections with doing the Zoom, with hosting this other meeting, with trying to train people. It's actually been a vehicle of connection for me. It's been the only way I've connected with family other than the phone to be able to do Easter.
Yeah, for me, it's been just Zoom and the telephone and you. It's very different. And seeing clients on Zoom it's all we have, but it's a poor substitute in my view of doing therapy. It's just that human connection. Just Zoom just doesn't do it.
Through work, because I do a lot of Zoom calls with volunteers all across the country. So that has been fantastic. And I just make it a point to check in regularly by text or what have you with friends. Even if it's just, I'm thinking of you, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's where are you finding love during the pandemic?
Family.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely family, definitely home. I have my partner home, so but I think the place that I'm feeling it, which is new and different, is the community, and just sort of this other community that I'm a part of, and just the love going around and the care for one another. That's been quite moving to watch. So that's been the surprise place for me, to find it.